Ethan Carter had spent the last 7 years raising his 8-year-old son, Noah, alone. After his wife passed away from a sudden illness, every day became a struggle between construction jobs, unpaid bills, and making sure Noah never went to bed feeling unloved. One rainy afternoon, Ethan received devastating news. The apartment building where they lived had been sold, and every tenant had 30 days to move out. He stared at the notice in disbelief. His savings barely covered groceries, let alone a new home. Trying to clear his mind, Ethan took Noah to the small-town park where they often fed ducks. While Noah laughed as birds chased breadcrumbs, Ethan sat quietly on a worn wooden bench. "Excuse me, Ethan?" He looked up. Standing before him was a woman holding a basket of flowers. Her eyes were just as bright as he remembered from high school. "Claire?" She smiled gently. "It's really you." For a moment, the years disappeared. Claire had been Ethan's first love. They had dreamed about growing old together before life sent them down different paths. As they talked, Ethan noticed she wore a simple silver ring on a chain around her neck instead of on her finger. "I'm sorry," Ethan said carefully. Claire nodded. "My husband passed away 2 years ago." Silence settled between them. "I'm sorry for your loss." "And yours," she replied softly. Noah ran toward them. "Dad! Look! I found a turtle." Claire knelt with a warm smile. "You must be Noah." The little boy grinned. "How do you know my name?" "Your dad used to tell everyone he'd have the best kid in the world someday." Ethan laughed for the first time in weeks. The three spent the afternoon talking. Claire had inherited her late husband's small countryside home and now ran a flower nursery beside it. Though she smiled often, Ethan sensed loneliness hidden behind her kindness. As the sun began to set, Claire noticed Ethan quietly folding the eviction notice that had slipped from his pocket. Her smile faded. "Is everything all right?" Ethan hesitated but finally admitted the truth. "We're losing our apartment. I haven't figured out where Noah and I will go." Claire looked at the father and son for a long moment. Then she took a deep breath and quietly said, "You and your boy need a home." Ethan looked up in surprise, not knowing those simple words were about to change all three of their lives forever. Ethan stared at Claire, unsure he had heard her correctly. "You and your boy need a home," she repeated gently. "My house is far too quiet. There are empty rooms, and I could use the company. Stay until you're back on your feet." Ethan immediately shook his head. "Claire, I can't ask that of you." "You didn't," she replied with a warm smile. "I'm offering." Noah looked between the two adults. "Dad, does that mean we won't have to sleep in the truck if we can't find a house?" Ethan's heart sank. He hadn't realized Noah had overheard his late-night worries. Claire knelt beside the boy. "You'll have your own room, if that's okay with you." Noah's eyes lit up. "My own room?" Ethan hesitated, his pride battling his desperation. But when he looked at his son, he knew what mattered most. "Thank you." The following weekend, they arrived at Claire's countryside home. It was a beautiful white farmhouse surrounded by colorful flowers stretching across several acres. The air smelled of roses and fresh earth, a welcome change from the noisy city. Noah raced through the garden, laughing as butterflies fluttered around him. "This place is amazing." Claire smiled, happier than Ethan had seen her all day. Inside the house, Ethan noticed framed photographs of Claire and her late husband, Daniel. One picture showed them planting a tiny apple tree together. "I hope these don't make you uncomfortable," Claire said quietly. "They shouldn't be taken down." She looked at him, surprised. "Daniel was part of your life. His memory belongs here." Claire's eyes filled with gratitude. That evening, the three shared dinner around a table that had once been silent. Noah told funny stories from school, Ethan laughed, and for the first time since losing Daniel, Claire heard genuine laughter echo through her home. The next morning, Ethan insisted on helping around the property. He repaired a broken fence, fixed a leaking porch step, and organized the old tools in the barn. "You don't have to do all this," Claire said. I know, Ethan replied. But I want to. Business at the flower nursery had been slow for months. Seeing customers drive away because of broken signs and neglected pathways troubled Ethan. Without saying anything, he built new flower displays from leftover wood and repainted the entrance sign. Within days, more customers began stopping by. Claire watched from the porch, amazed. Maybe Ethan hadn't just come looking for shelter. Maybe he had brought new life to a place that had been filled with grief for far too long. But as Hope quietly returned to the farmhouse, neither of them noticed a black SUV parked across the road. Inside sat a man wearing an expensive suit, staring at the property with a cold smile. "I've finally found you, Claire," he whispered. And whatever piece they had found was about to be tested. The black SUV remained parked across the road until sunset. Ethan noticed it while watering flowers outside the nursery. "Claire," he said quietly, "has that vehicle been here before?" She glanced toward the road. The moment she recognized it, the color drained from her face. "It can't be." The SUV door opened, and a sharply dressed man stepped out. He walked confidently toward the farmhouse, wearing a smile that felt anything but friendly. "Hello, Claire." She froze. "Victor." Ethan instinctively stepped closer to Claire. Victor looked Ethan up and down before turning back to Claire. "So this is why you've been ignoring my calls." Claire folded her arms. "What do you want?" Victor's smile disappeared. "I'm here to discuss the nursery. I already told you I'm not selling it." Victor laughed. "You don't really have a choice." After Daniel's death, Claire had discovered that the flower nursery carried a large loan. Victor, a wealthy property developer and Daniel's former business partner, had quietly bought the debt from the bank. His real goal was to demolish the nursery and build a luxury shopping center. "The payment is due in 3 weeks, Victor said. If you can't pay, the property becomes mine." As he walked away, he glanced at Ethan. "I hope you don't get too comfortable here." That evening, silence filled the house. Claire admitted the truth. "I've been trying to save the nursery for 2 years. Daniel dreamed of turning it into the most beautiful flower farm in the county. I promised I'd protect it." Ethan looked around at the colorful fields outside the window. "We're not giving up." The next morning, Ethan had an idea. Instead of waiting for customers, they would bring the flowers to the community. He built wooden display stands from old lumber, repaired the delivery truck, and created attractive flower bundles with Noah's help. Noah even suggested placing handwritten thank you notes inside every bouquet. Soon, local cafes, churches, schools, and wedding planners began placing orders. Word spread quickly about the little nursery with beautiful flowers and heartfelt service. Business improved every single day. Claire smiled more often than she had in years. One evening, as they watched the sunset over the fields, she turned to Ethan. "I thought my life ended when Daniel died." Ethan looked at her gently. "And I thought I'd never feel hopeful again after losing my wife." For a quiet moment, neither of them spoke. Then Noah came running across the field holding a tiny apple. "Dad!" "Claire! Look!" It had fallen from the small apple tree Daniel had planted years before. Claire held the fruit in her hands, tears filling her eyes. "It's the first apple this tree has ever grown." She looked at Ethan and Noah, realizing something remarkable. Just as the tree had survived long enough to bear fruit, hearts that had been broken by loss could bloom again. But the next morning, a letter arrived from Victor's lawyer. Claire had only 7 days left to pay the debt, or she would lose everything she had fought to protect. Claire sat at the kitchen table, staring at the letter from Victor's lawyer. 7 days. That was all the time she had left to save the flower nursery that she and Daniel had loved so dearly. "I failed him," she whispered, tears rolling down her cheeks. Ethan gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "No, Claire. You kept your promise for 2 years. Now let us help you carry it." The next morning, Ethan visited every local business that had recently become a customer. He explained the nursery's situation, expecting sympathy but nothing more. Instead, something incredible happened. The owners of the cafes offered to buy flowers for an entire year in advance. The church organized a community flower festival. Wedding planners prepaid for future events, and local families volunteered to help harvest and arrange bouquets. News of the struggling nursery spread throughout the county. Hundreds of people arrived to support the business that had brightened their homes and celebrations. Even Noah played his part. He set up a small lemonade stand beside the nursery with a handwritten sign. Helping save Claire's flowers. Visitors couldn't resist his smile. Many donated far more than the price of a cup. By the end of the week, they had raised almost enough money, but they were still short by several $1,000s. On the final afternoon, Victor arrived with his lawyer. "I hope you've packed your things," he said smugly. Claire lowered her head. Then a familiar pickup truck pulled into the driveway. An elderly man stepped out. He introduced himself as Mr. Harris, Daniel's former army captain. "I heard what was happening," he said. "Years ago, Daniel saved my life overseas. I never had the chance to repay him." He handed Claire a cashier's check covering the exact amount they still owed. Victor's confident smile disappeared. The lawyer counted the payment, nodded, and handed Victor the loan documents. "It's over," the lawyer said. "The debt has been paid in full." Victor left without another word. As the crowd cheered, Claire broke down in tears of relief. Months passed. The nursery became more successful than ever, known not only for its beautiful flowers but also for the kindness that had saved it. One warm spring evening, Ethan and Noah planted another apple tree beside the one Daniel had planted years before. Claire smiled through happy tears. "This one represents a new beginning." Ethan took her hand. "I never thought I'd find happiness again." "Neither did I," Claire replied. Noah looked up at them with a huge grin. "So, does this mean we're a family now?" Ethan and Claire looked at each other and smiled. "Yes," Ethan answered. "We already are." A year later, beneath blooming apple trees and surrounded by friends from the community, Ethan and Claire were married. The little farmhouse that had once been filled with silence was now filled with laughter, hope, and love. Sometimes life closes one chapter in heartbreak. But if we keep our hearts open, it can write an even more beautiful ending than we ever imagined.